Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Money Bear podcast. This is your host, Chloe Daniels, better known as Clo Bare Money Coach on the internet. And I actually just got done recording a podcast episode with Cassie, who's telling her story and how she was able to increase her net worth by 140K in about a year and a half after taking the Lazy Investors course. It was a really cool episode. And one of the things that she was talking about was how did she even know to get started in her 20s? Was she mentioned a mentor. And I was like, you know what? We need to do a podcast episode on mentorship because mentors are huge. And that's like how I think succeeded so quickly in my career was through mentors and having multiple mentors who were looking out for me, who were telling me what moves to make when it came to my career, who were telling me how much to ask for, who were telling me like my options in terms of career development. And I think that because I had so many mentors along the way, I forget that's not the norm and not a lot of people know how to get one or how to trust somebody or find somebody that they trust. And a mentor can be so game changing. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And I'll tell you a little bit more about my story in this quick tip. But first, the life update. So y'all, I'm going through it right now. You guys are probably going to be so tired of the fact that I am constantly having a new health issue, but I not only have another staph infection. You heard that right. I have another staph infection. My tattoo that I got is now infected as well. I'm guessing it's likely tied to the fact that I have a staph infection. And I am also getting a procedure. I think I had told you guys that I wanted to get chin lipo. And when I went to the plastic surgeon to see if I qualified, he was like, you don't qualify for chin lipo because this is not fat on your chin. This is like skin. And I was like, well, shit, what do I do then? So he recommended this treatment called Profound RF, which is super expensive, but it's supposed to be like a non-invasive facelift almost. And I'm only targeting the lower half of my face that I have an issue with. So anyway, I'm supposed to get that tomorrow. I'm filming this on Wednesday, September 6th. I'm supposed to go in tomorrow. And not only do I have a staph infection, I also have an infected neck tattoo. And I'm just like, what is happening with my life? And the only reason I'm not panicked or not freaking out about it is I'm already on antibiotics I just started antibiotics today for the procedure that I'm getting tomorrow. So today was so chaotic because I got into a car accident about a month ago and it was just a fender bender. Somebody ran into me when they were backing up and it ended up being a little under $1,000 of damage. And so I was like, okay, I might as well get it fixed because it's an old car and I want to keep it around as long as possible because I don't like buying new cars. And today I finally had to take it in to get it fixed. And then while I was there taking it in and dropping it off to get it fixed, Enterprise came and picked me up to take me to the car rental. So I had to do that this morning. And then after doing that, I ran to 2 different pharmacies to get all my medications for tomorrow's procedure. And the first pharmacy was like, we can't fill one of these, or you're just going to have to pass on one of the pills. And I'm like, that's insane. Why would I do that? And so then I had to go to the next one. And then it was a shit show. They changed things last minute. I had to call the place multiple times to just be like, what is going on? I kept getting hung up on. It was just chaos. So that ended up being 2 hours of my morning of just running around like a crazy person. And then I got home and was like, cool, I have an infected tattoo. I've never had an infected tattoo. I think it's my fault because I think I left the second skin on for too long. I left the second skin on because I was like, I'm going to Big Bear and I'm going to go hiking and I don't want to worry about my tattoo while I'm in Big Bear. So I'm just going to leave the second skin on. And now I'm 99% sure it's infected. So yeah, good news is I'm already on antibiotics. So that should take care of it. And I already have the antibiotic cream as well from my staph infection. Your girl over here is falling apart. So yeah, the whole staph infection situation, I'm like, okay, clearly I'm prone to staph. And I don't want to quit jujitsu. So I think anytime I have a scratch from cash or whatever, because I have scratches all the time from my cat, I am just going to cover it up with antibacterial cream and wear a Band-Aid so that if that's how I'm getting staph is from having these like scratches and things that then I go to jujitsu and they get like the staph into my bloodstream or something. I, yeah, that's my solution. And I'm only going to wear long sleeves and long pants now, which is good that it's finally September because things are cooling off. But yeah, so this today was a little chaotic. I'm struggling with my health. And my friend Deanna is like, Chloe, do you want to have my like spiritual cleanser come in and like it's like $300 and she'll come in and cleanse your space? And I was like, I would do that, but I just don't believe in it. So I can't justify spending $300 on somebody coming in to cleanse my space. Like I want to believe in it. I just don't. And so I can't really do that. But at the same time, I'm at this point where I'm like, okay, I'm really tired of having things wrong with me health wise. So I don't know, guys. I might have to start doing some witchcraft. I don't know. We'll see what happens. And at this point, you can hear me laughing about it because I'm like, it's just ridiculous how many things have happened since I've moved to San Diego health wise. And I get it. It's mostly because of the fact that now I'm doing a combat sport, but it's just wild. So that was my chaotic morning. And that's my life update. I'm getting profound RF tomorrow. I made sure that the tattoo wasn't going to be an issue. They said, no, it shouldn't be an issue. Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe it's another sign from the universe that they're like, slow down. But I feel like I have been taking care of myself. My body just disagrees, apparently. So, all right, deep breath. We're going to talk about how to find a mentor because this is so important if you want to increase your income at your 9 to 5, if you want to start a business, if you want to do really anything in relation to your job life, your career life. Finding a mentor is invaluable. And for me, I had multiple mentors along the way. So I really tried in my career early on to, when I was looking for a job and I was applying to things, I made sure that I really liked the boss and that the boss was going to prioritize my growth. That was like the number one thing that I looked for. And I asked direct questions and I said, hey, I'm early in my career. I want to make sure that I'm getting in with a company that values my growth and that cares about developing me within the company. Is that something that I can expect from working at this nonprofit? And he was so down. You could tell from his reaction that he was like there to also see me succeed. And we totally vibed immediately. And so I knew that was the right person to work for. But that's important. That's key. So many people are like, well, you're lucky you have a boss who prioritized that or was willing to do that for you. And it's like, no, I did that by design. That was on purpose. So that's the number one thing is when you're going and you're looking for a new job to make sure you're also interviewing the company that and your future boss and your future employers and your future coworkers. That is something that you're looking for because it does matter. Now, I would say, gosh, I probably would say I had 2 to 3 different mentors over my career and then lots of like mini single serving mentors. But the number one mentor I had was my first boss. His name's Rudy. He and I are like family members. I freaking love him. He was actually in San Diego not that long ago and we got together and it's just like you hang out with your people who you don't have to like be anything else but yourself around. That's my bestie, Rudy. And he was a big mentor to me in my first couple of years in corporate America. And I would ask him what to do about certain things, what to do about certain scenarios. And he would guide me as best as he could. And when he couldn't, he'd be like, let me connect you to somebody who can have this conversation with you or who does have interest in this thing that you're interested in. And through that, I got other mini mentors who were people I could talk to about my career. Having people you can talk to about your career who cannot retaliate against you, who can, I mean, granted, your boss can, so I wouldn't normally recommend a boss, but having people you can talk to about your career and go to when things are weird and they don't have a stake in it is huge. So Rudy was one of them. Another one of my mentors, her name's Christy, and she was actually working at the company when I got hired, and she was the social media manager. And she wasn't a big mentor to me at the company that I was working at until like a few years into my career. And I just started asking her questions about like the politics of the company and how to navigate certain situations. And then eventually when she left, I left with her. A year after she left, she was hiring for a position that I knew I was qualified for. And I then went and worked for her. So these are just like some of the ways that mentors can be huge in terms of like navigating political situations inside of corporate America, in terms of identifying future opportunities for you, in terms of opportunities to network outside of your company, to get new opportunities. They have been huge. And then Christy and both Rudy were really good at helping me know my value. One of the things that Christy told me was you price yourself like a house. When you are asking for more money, you are not going in there just being good at communications because it's a communications role. You're also going in with skills related to project management and leadership skills and whatever else skills that you have. It's like those are added benefits. Those are added. You've got social media skills. You've got all of these things that are going to help you in this position as long as you can explain how this skill connects to the role and is going to prove that you're going to be even more successful in this role than anybody else. That's added value. Price yourself like a house. Oh, we don't just have windows. We have French doors. We have whatever. I don't have a house, so I don't know what the updates are that people are willing to pay for. So anyway, because you guys know I struggle with ADHD, to keep my thoughts organized in terms of how to find a mentor, I'm pulling from our friends over at Frugal Friends podcast. And in these quick episodes, my goal is to bring an article in as well that I pulled up about how to find a mentor so that I can both go through the article and also give my 2 cents on it. So the article that we're going over today is from Indeed, which shout out to my friend who works out at Indeed. But it's called How to Find a Mentor in 8 Steps plus Mentorship Tips. It's one of the first ones that come up when you search how to find a mentor. So let's dive into it. Now, first off, looking at what the heck is a mentor. A mentor is a professional who guides another person through experience by offering advice, developing trust, and listening and responding to questions and concerns. They should be authentic and dependable, aware of your needs, engaged with their mentees, but they also need to have that professional expertise in the specific field that you are looking for mentorship in. So that's key. It's not going to be your peer. It's not going to be somebody who you're working with on a day-to-day basis. It's going to be somebody who's a step ahead, who's been where you are, who has the experience that you are trying to have or the experience that you don't have. So what are we talking about in terms of benefits of a mentor? There are a lot of benefits to having a mentorship. So we've already touched on what the benefits of working with a mentor are, but beyond what I've already mentioned, it's the developing those professional connections for future opportunities, having sources for like letters of recommendation or recommendations and references when you apply to a new job, gaining honest feedback about your strengths and areas for improvement, resources to build new skills. I remember when I was working at the nonprofit and when I was working with Christy, they were constantly bringing things to my attention that I should be looking into, like volunteering at an organization that was in relation to the career that I was in, going to a conference that was about something related to my job, networking, going to a networking event, things along those lines, which as somebody who grew up in the Midwest, this was not something that was ever brought. I didn't know there were associations. I didn't know there were like professional associations where you could go and join and hang out with a bunch of people in PR or marketing or whatever. I didn't know that was a thing. So having somebody who could help me identify like, hey, these are things you should be doing if you do want to grow in this position, if you want to grow in this industry, here's a couple of ideas. And by the way, we also have budget for it here. So that I totally agree with. Again, though, I do think that sometimes we have to be very careful about not sometimes, we always have to be very careful on who we choose for a mentorship role. Because again, if you don't know if you can trust your boss, if you don't know if you can trust your coworkers, if you don't know if there's somebody out there who you really can rely on for these things, and they're not going to go to HR and say, Chloe's trying to learn more about this industry, so I think she's going to leave us or something. That's like what you want to be conscious of. Now, granted, a mentor shouldn't say yes to being your mentor if they're going to do that. They shouldn't, if they don't have your best interest in mind. Ideally, they are not going to say yes and be like, yeah, cool, I'll be your mentor. So how do you find a mentor? I'm sure you're wondering. Now, the number one tip that Indeed has on this article is reflect on whether mentorship is the right fit. Think about where you are in your career and the reasons why you want to mentor. Reflect on your personal attributes and what you think you might like as or be like as a mentee, as well as how you accept feedback, because that'll help you determine whether or not you're even ready for a mentor or not. And it will also give you a basis for what are you going to look for when you're looking for a mentor? Because if you're not sure how you want to grow and you're not sure what you want to do, then how are you going to know who you want to mentor you, right? And you've got to be clear on what do I want to do so I can find somebody who's a right fit for me to build a relationship on in terms of mentorship. Now, granted, it's not the end of the world if you find a mentor or you find somebody who you think could be a potential mentor, and after meeting with them and getting to know them, you're like, maybe not, this isn't what I want to do. That's okay. But it's going to save you time. You're not going to waste other people's time if you have a clear idea of what you want to do. Now, keep in mind, a mentorship is something that we're talking about a relationship. This is not a informational interview. This is not just calling somebody on LinkedIn to ask them a couple of questions. This is ideally somebody that you're having an ongoing relationship with, ongoing check-ins, ongoing communication with. So I do want to keep in mind that there's a difference. You can absolutely have informational interviews with people on LinkedIn that you find interesting. You can absolutely reach out to people and say, hey, I really love what you're doing in this space, and I would love to hear more about it. Would you be open to a 15-minute call just so I can kind of hear about your process? This isn't a sales pitch. I'm just at this point in my career that I'm trying to figure out what's next, and I would love to hear more about your story. Some people are not going to respond. Some people are not going to say yes. Most of the time, though, every once in a while, you'll get somebody who is interested in sharing with you. I remember when I thought I wanted to own a marketing agency, I cold DM'd a guy on LinkedIn who, it wasn't totally cold because I had been engaging on his LinkedIn posts, but I messaged him. I was like, hey, I really love what you're doing. I think it's so interesting. It's really cool that you own a marketing agency, and I think I am interested in doing that someday as well. Would you be open to a 15-minute conversation where I could just pick your brain about what you wish you had done and things along those lines? Obviously, now as a podcast owner, I can do that at any time, and it's a benefit to them because they get to come on to the podcast. But I did that even when I had no platform whatsoever, and just out of the blue was like, hey, can I ask you some questions? And the thing is that what you will find is people love talking about themselves. They love helping people. They love being able to tell their story. So I think most of us will be surprised at how often, if our request is nice, if our request is well thought out, I think most of us will be surprised by how often people will actually say yes to things like that. So you got to know what you're looking for, though. Now, number 2 on how to find a mentor from this Indeed article is identify your mentorship needs. So we already looked at that, but outline the goals. What do you want from your mentor? Have you an idea of whose skill set you're actually looking for? Are you trying to learn how to increase your income? Are you trying to learn how to move into a different industry? So that kind of very much, it ties into whether or not mentorship is the right fit, but really identifying who is going to be the right mentor. Well, in order to identify who the right mentor is going to be for you, you got to know what skill set you're looking for. Are you trying to stay in the same industry and just go up the corporate ladder, or are you trying to make a switch, make a pivot, learn about other things? What are those things that you really need? Because again, you're going to have to pick somebody based off of your mentorship needs. I feel like with mentorship, it's often just somebody to ask the questions along the way. And it's so when it's that kind of a mentorship where you're I just don't understand what to do next. I'm in this situation. What would you do? I think having somebody who's in the same industry as you, but a couple steps ahead of you. Maybe if you're a specialist, you're getting to know somebody who's at a senior manager or a director level role. Or if you're a manager, maybe you're getting somebody who is a senior director, an SVP, to essentially have somebody to knock these thoughts off of. All right. Step number 3 is consider people you admire. Abso-freaking-lutely. If you're I have no idea what I want to do. I have no idea what's next. I don't know what I want to do with my career. We'll start with, who do you think are cool? Who is somebody you admire? Who's somebody that you feel jealous of, or you wish you had their career, or you wish you had the soft skills that they had, or the confidence or the presentation? Because that's going to help guide you towards who maybe you want to ask to be your mentor. So usually that's going to be people who are maybe at more advanced stages in your career, but it could be somebody who's doing something really interesting that you would like to do or doing something similar. Maybe it's somebody who's got really amazing presentation skills or confidence or executive presence or leadership. What is that stuff? Again, going back to number 2, what are the mentorship needs that you have? Then look for, who do you admire who have those skills? Who do you admire that are doing that, who can foster that growth inside of you? That sounded weird, but you guys know what I mean. All right. Number 4 is start with your network. So that's the easiest way, is to look at, okay, who am I surrounded by? Who's in my LinkedIn? Who's in my professional network? Asking your boss, asking a coworker and being like, hey, I feel like it would be really helpful for me to have a network or for me to have a mentor. Here's some of the things that I'm interested in learning about or getting some guidance on. Do you have anybody in your network who might be interested in or be open to that? The other thing too is attending those association events, attending events that are in your industry to get to know people who are outside of your job as well, because sometimes those can be even more beneficial than the people who are working within your company. So going through LinkedIn, going through your network, even your friend network, telling your friends like, hey, I'm trying to get a mentor. I think it would be really helpful for me for these reasons. Is there anybody you know who you might want to like connect me to, allow me to meet up with for coffee? All right. Tip number 5 is explore other options to finding a mentor. So expand your search to include other options for getting a mentor, like what I just said, joining a professional organization, attending networking events. This could help you connect with more professionals in your field. I will tell you guys, this is such a great way to make your presence in the industry known, especially if you live in a bigger metropolitan area. I started to know the nonprofit fundraisers in my community really well. I had this whole network of people who like I would reach out to if there was a job opening, or I would recommend for jobs that came up in my company. And it's a really nice thing to have people who are doing the same thing you're doing, because even if you're like applying to jobs and things, you could ask them like, hey, has anybody heard what it's like to work at this company? What do you think? What should I ask for? What are the pros and cons? Was there any tea that I need to know about? So those in-person events, and there's some online events too. I can think of like literally whatever your industry is, just Google your industry plus association or plus professional association, and likely you'll find an association that specializes in what you do. Number 6 is prepare your elevator pitch. Be prepared to share your goals, why you think this person is the right mentor for you, and your expectations of them confidently, setting clear expectations in the initial conversation, including a time commitment involved, et cetera, et cetera. This one's interesting to me because yes, I think that's important in a very formal mentorship role, but it's not like I ever sat down with Rudy or Christy or like some of my other mentors and was like, will you be my mentor? It just happened organically by me going to them, by me saying, hey, can I talk to you about this thing? And here's the thing that I think, and I don't know if this is going to say, it doesn't say, this isn't one of the tips that's in this article. One of the things that I learned about through mentorships and also understanding what a mentorship needs to be two-sided. It cannot be you constantly asking something from this person. It has to be two-sided. And for me, that was being like a go-to person for each of these people in the companies that we work for. If there was ever something that they needed, I was their go-to person. I could get it done. I would figure it out. I would help them, even if it was outside of my job description. So that was like a mutually beneficial relationship for them. When it comes to like talking to mentors who are not in your company, it's giving them space to talk, treating them to coffee, letting them know of opportunities that you hear of, making it as mutually beneficial as possible is really big, because you don't want to feel like, and I wouldn't want to feel like this in a mentor role. I wouldn't feel like I was constantly being ragged on and taken from. And I think a huge part of that is if you get advice from your mentor or you get tips and things like that, take action. That's huge. It's one of the best ways to reciprocate. It's like there's nothing feels better than somebody asking for your advice and then them actually taking it and it going well. The easy way to burn out a mentorship relationship is to never listen to them, to never do what they say, to never like whatever. That to me is like when I talk about it being a reciprocal relationship, that's part of it. Is it's like we get the pride of being able to mentor you and hearing the updates and being there for you, but you got to do it. It's not a therapist relationship. Your mentor is not there for you to just vent to. It's there for you to problem solve, to find new opportunities, to advance your career, those sort of things. So you got to listen, because it's so not cool if you're like going to only come with problems and you're never going to come with solutions. So that's what I mean by it being a reciprocal relationship. They can't only be the ones giving. You've got to give back, whether that's being their go-to person at work, or whether that's sharing opportunities with them, or being somebody who they can also talk to about certain things, or just vent about. And I will say, like, it's definitely going to be a little bit more one-sided. Like, your mentor is going to be there for you probably more than your mentee. And as somebody who has been a mentor to people, I don't expect a lot, but the following through, the taking action, the being solution oriented, not expecting me to just be somebody you can vent to, that's huge. It's not just a friendship. Like, of course, we would like a friendship with our mentor, but a mentorship is different. They're supposed to be there for you on this career path. And what we're getting out of it is the joy of seeing you succeed. So I've been on both ends. I've been the mentee and I've been the mentor, and seeing my mentees succeed is huge. But the mentees I had, they took action. They were willing to do the things, and they did not ask that much of me, other than like being somebody that they could rely on for advice, or rely on for questions and airing things out, and occasionally looking at their resume or things along those lines too. So that's like under the prepare your elevator pitch. Number 7, request a meeting with them. Duh, right? So again, it could be as simple as a phone call where you're like, hey, I really love what you're doing in these things. You have that phone call and you ask your questions and you listen and you take notes. And then at the end of that phone call, if you're like, yes, this is somebody who I do want to have a continuing relationship with, and I would love to mentor me, that's when you ask. You say, hey, would it be cool if from time to time I called you about this stuff, or we grabbed dinner just to like check in on these things? I really valued this conversation and like would love to continue this relationship if that's something that interests you. Boom. Worst thing they say is no, or worst thing they say is you can email me on occasion. Just asking the question, and as long as it was a good conversation and you're reading the room accurately, you should be okay. If they took the call, they're probably willing to continue having a communication with you and having a relationship with you. But, you know, go in for the like, can I have a weekly touch base? That's a no for me. Can I check in with you? Even monthly is a lot. So it's like, can I occasionally check in with you, or could we meet on occasion to go over this stuff? This has been really helpful for me, and it would be really wonderful to have someone like you to bounce these ideas off of. So that's number 7. And number 8 is explain your interests. So you share your elevator pitch to explain your potential mentor, why you want to find a mentor, why you think they could be the right mentor for you, and what you hope to learn from them. It may be helpful to discuss how you may be able to benefit from them as a mentee, answer any questions they have, create a plan for what they do next if they agree. It's important to be respectful if they decline the offer, and it may be worthwhile to ask if they know somebody who has an interest in becoming a mentor, because that is true. Not everybody's going to be interested in mentoring somebody. Not everybody's going to have the time for it or the desire for it. There's somebody outside weed whacking. It always happens on the days where I have like a very little time and I have to squeeze everything in one day. And then it's like the final moment that I can record an episode. It's like, let's weed whack right outside these old windows so you can hear all of it. Hopefully you guys can't hear it, but we're going to wrap up. So again, you don't want to put so much pressure on it that it's like, here's a 10-step plan and a schedule. Like, to me, that's not appealing to me, but another mentor may find that really appealing. And you can ask them like, I'd really love to work with you in a mentorship way. I'd love to continue meeting with you and having this mentorship relationship. Is that something you'd be interested in? And I want to be respectful of your time. Are you the type of person who like wants a plan, or could we casually meet on a regular basis? I think really letting them help you determine what makes sense for you guys, because every mentor-mentee relationship is going to be different. Me and Rudy, we saw each other every day, so we were talking all the time. We had to travel for work together. And often when we were traveling for work together, that's where a lot of these conversations happened, because you're not in the office. You're not having to worry about like, oh no, what if somebody hears that I'm looking for a new job or I'm looking for a new opportunity. With Christy, it'd be like, we'd occasionally go to lunch. That's it. we'd occasionally, and I would come to her and say, hey, do you want to grab roti today? Or she'd come to me if she had something that she needed to talk to me about. And we had pretty casual conversations as well. So deciding, how do you want that to be? How do you want somebody who can Zoom occasionally? Do you want somebody you can grab coffee with? Do you want somebody you can go for walks with during lunch hour? Really being flexible with that. And also understanding, how do they want to have the relationship as well? Because it's not all you, it's a two-way relationship. So a couple of other tips that are just like a rapid fire at the end of this is set a goal. Like, even if it's not a goal that you're sharing with them. I mean, I do think a goal of like, I'm really working to develop myself in my career. I'm really working to grow in my career. I'm really working to increase my income, etc. But also having those personal goals of like, these are the things that I want to learn from this person, so that it's not just you dumping on them every time you see them. Number 2, form a personal relationship. Heck yes. Like, that's ideal, right? We want to also be friends with our mentors if that's a possibility. Understand them, like ask about them, ask how their family is, get to know them, know when their birthday is, like care about them. It's a relationship. Number 3, accept constructive criticism. That's what you're there for. You're there to get tips. You're there to get education. So you accept that constructive criticism, know that it's coming from a place of wanting to help you, and they're there to help you. So they're there to help improve your career or whatever the situation that you're in. Try to meet regularly, whether that's once a quarter, once every 2 months, something along those lines. I think monthly is a little ambitious for most busy people, but at the very least, once a quarter, I would say. You also handle the logistics. You say, hey, let's meet here. Unless they're like excited to plan a dinner or something like that, you say, you handle it. You're like, ask about their meeting style, ask about their time preference, coordinate all the details so that it's easy for them. Then it says create an agenda. Again, a lot of my relationships with mentorships were much more casual and I preferred it that way. So did they. But if it's something that's a little bit more focused, it's okay to create an agenda. Update them. They want to know how you're doing. They want to know about your professional development. We all want to know that you're taking our advice and you're sharing updates about your growth because it makes us feel good. But also be freaking honest, because they can't help you if you're not being honest about where you are and what's going on in the workplace. So I'm going to end it there because we've got a lot of tips jammed into this episode. So thank you guys. I hope you found this helpful. I'll leave a link to the Indeed article in the show notes. And if you've gotten this far and you're curious about my own career journey and some of the things that I've done, I've got videos on it inside of my free guide. So be sure to head over to moneyrightguide.com to get those free videos on how I advanced in my career relatively quickly. So that's all I got for you guys today. I'll see y'all next week. All right. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for listening to the Money Bear podcast. If you've made it this far, do us a favor, take 2 seconds, rate, review, and subscribe. It seriously means the world to me. And if you just take a sec to do that, I will appreciate you endlessly. And if you do, let me know on Instagram and I'll thank you personally. So got that. And of course, since we were talking about anything financial on this show, please note that nothing on this show is intended as financial advice. I don't know you, unfortunately, and because of that, I cannot tell you what to do with your money. You got to work with a financial professional who knows your situation, who is preferably a fiduciary, and keep in mind that everything that we talk about on this podcast is for education and entertainment purposes only. It's all my opinion. So there's that. If you want to see our full terms and conditions, head on over to the show notes. And while you're there, we've got free resources for you to get started on your money journey down in the show notes as well, including a free guide to help you with your budgeting templates and budgeting tutorials and investing 101, understanding the different accounts that are out there. All that good stuff is inside of my free guide, which is also available at thelazyinvestorscourse.com/guide. And if you're ready to take our relationship to the next level, I am also hosting a monthly investing class. And that investing class, you can find the times we're offering it this month at thelazyinvestorscourse.com/webinar. That link is in the show notes as well. And that's where you have the chance to meet me live and ask those money questions live. It's a good time. We've had over 20,000 people as of recording this join or register. And yeah, it's always nice to meet you guys. So I hope to see you there. Again, all that is available down in the show notes. So thank you again for coming and listening. I appreciate you, and I'll see you next week.